How's it going, everyone? My name is George, and today we are continuing the series of basketball reviews with a film based on a true story, Coach Carter, which was directed by Thomas Carter, who's not related to the real life Coach Carter. But yeah, this is based off a true story, based off of Coach Ken Carter, who coached Richmond High School basketball in California, and he was known for having this lockout because his players were not performing well academically. And so basically that's the premise of this film. Coach Carter comes played by Samuel L. Jackson comes to coach his old high school and teaches players about discipline and also how to take their academics seriously and when they're falling behind and performing not well despite doing well on the basketball court. He has a lockout which proves to be very controversial with the community, with some of the parents and some of the school staff. So unlike most of the movies that I've already reviewed that are related and will be reviewing in this series of reviews, this one I did not see yet. I didn't see Coach Carter yet, so this was my first time watching it. Yes, I do have a basketball in my hand, but anyways, this was my first time watching Coach Carter. And I've been curious about this film because I'm a huge fan of Samuel L. Jackson. I'm a huge fan of basketball. And I find it pretty interesting that a coach went to great lengths to prevent his players from playing and practicing in order to make sure that their academics makes go up. And yeah, I know there's sometimes you got those players who, when they're not performing well, they are basically put on academic probation or they can't play until the grades go up. But he prevented the whole team, even some of the players that were doing very well. So I found this to be a really interesting story, and I fell in love with this movie as I was watching it because a lot of these sports movies, like yeah, they're about sports and are also about like some of the uphill battles that they're going through, the Cinderella stories. And while this is a Cinderella story, because the season before this season that this movie takes place in, they only won 4 games, while in this film they're winning all their games in the regular season. It's also a movie about how to basically help teenagers, young men become men, to become adults, to make better decisions, to get ready for a life outside of basketball. Because they brought up some pretty interesting stats in this film, how only half the school will graduate, and a smaller percentage, only a few of those students will be going to college. And the fact that like some of these players are talented enough to play at a college level, but they need to do well in school to get those scholarships to get accepted into these schools. So it's not just about, becoming a better team. It's about doing well academically. It's about preparing for a life outside of high school. And this coach who is very strict, who disciplines his team, who is no nonsense, wants these kids to have a bright future and does care about them. And there's also other stories that are happening in this film. For example, the coach's son Damien drops out of his school, St. Francis, has a really good team and is a way better school than Richmond, but he wants to play for his father, and he even changes the contract to put himself at a higher standard. You also have one of the players, Cruz, who, when Coach Carter first comes in, he quits. Well, no, he's kicked off the team actually because he's being very disrespectful. Then, when he wants to come back on the team, Coach has him do all these suicides and push-ups, and when he fails to uphold that at a certain date, the team comes together to help Cruz get back on the team and do some of those suicides and some of those push-ups. And then Cruz quits again when the team is barred because they're not performing well academically. But then when he realizes what happens when he's not playing basketball or being with his team, when his cousin gets gunned down, he wants to come back on the team and he realizes what he really wants for himself, not this life of being involved in gangs and getting gunned down. And there's also a story where one of the players, their girlfriend is pregnant, but like he doesn't know, like, does he want it, and like what kind of future does he want. So there's a lot of these other storylines that are happening with some of these other players, not just about Coach Carter and his controversial stance, his controversial lockdown. But yeah, the actors that are playing these players are also doing a very good job playing them. You really buy into them and like their motivations and what they want in life as well. The basketball games look really good. You see this team like coming together. They're like I said though, Samuel Jackson. This is definitely one of his best performances, and obviously playing as this coach slash father that's like making sure everyone has this higher standard. He does such a good job of capturing all of that. And yeah, the film does feel formulaic. A lot of sports movies do kind of feel formulaic, where the team comes together with a Cinderella story, where they make a big comeback the next season. But it also ends on a different kind of note than most films. Most sports films like to end on a note where they win the big game, where they win the big championship, or like the big game. In this film, it doesn't end on that. So they play against St. Francis at the end of this film. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Coach Carter. But like a lot of my old movies, these movies have been around for many years now. This film's over a decade old. You can find it on DVD, Blu-ray, or any streaming service. But anyways, what happens is they play against St. Francis, and what's interesting is at the beginning of the film, before Coach Carter takes the job, they play against this team in preseason, and they're getting blown out by this team. And one of the players on the team, he's like being hyped up to be the next big NBA talent, the next big rookie, or whatever, the next young talent. And they lose really badly in the preseason game, like I said, and Coach Carter witnesses it, and they play against them in the first round of the state tournament. So, they're coming back, like it seems like a one-sided game at first, but in the fourth quarter they're coming back. The team's doing what they need to do, but yet they still lose when that player takes like the big game-winning shot, and it ends Richmond High School's hopes and dreams of going further. But yet the lesson of the movie isn't about just winning basketball games. It's about winning on and off the court, because that's basically what Coach Carr is doing. These are student athletes. He wants them to do well. Well, it's about upholding contracts they have to honor. The contract being that these players have to have a 2.3 GPA, have to sit in the front row of their classes, attend their classes, and also come into games with like suit and tie. So really the moral of the story is learning responsibility. It's not just about winning games, learning how to be responsible, de- learning how to, honor stuff, how to mature yourself, how to like stay out of trouble. And overall with Coach Carter, this is a movie that's more than just about basketball. It's a movie about life. It's about growing up. It's about preparing yourselves for the real world, making sure you're going on the right path, because sometimes people don't go on the right path. And yeah, they bring up a good point in this film. High school basketball could be the highlight of their life, but there's so many other options out there where this doesn't have to be the highest moment. Why why be at your highest moment in high school when there's so much more you can do after high school and have higher moments? Because some of these players are talented enough to go to college, to play for college, and it's even mentioned, and they tell you what happens with some of these guys after they graduate high school, after what happened this season. But overall, I enjoy Coach Carter. I enjoy the performances. I enjoy the story. It's definitely a more dramatic, serious movie than Hoosiers and Space Jam. I mean, obviously, Space Jam's a family movie. Um, Hoosiers, while it does have some dramatic moments, it's not as dramatic and as serious as Coach Carter. But yet, I still enjoy this movie, and I highly recommend you check it out. Not only if you're a basketball fan, but if you're a fan of movies and of stories similar to this. I'm going to give Coach Carter an A minus. I highly recommend you check it out. It did not disappoint as someone who watched this movie for the first time. And like I said, I recommend you check it out. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share us with someone that loves basketball movies. And hope to see you guys real soon. The last review of this basketball series will be The Way Back. That's the film that stars Ben Affleck. And I hope to review that movie next week. In the meantime, take care, everyone.